G'day mate, and welcome to another mini-series where we head back out to the three big wilderness singles bosses, RTO, Calvarion and Spindle. Firstly was how to PK at each boss, but this time we'll be turning the tables as we head back to each boss for 500 KC while being strapped up and ready for some anti-PKing. For our setup at Spindle, we'll be using a ranged and mage base set with a web weaver bow to take on the spider while swapping over to the standard spellbook for teleblock to keep any PKers stuck in there with us. We've got a Purging Staff with a Bloodbuck set and Tome of Fire, along with the Ancient Godsword to stack up some extra damage with its spec. We'll also be packing a Ring of Suffering with a Dragon Crossbow and Square Shield switch for some extra defense as well as recoil, making us much harder to take down. All up about 5.5 mil risk, but we'll have to be careful to not get smited for our bow. We've got a fresh loot tab stocked up with all the supplies we'll need, now let's send it over to the spider. Starting at 607 KC on the log, we've had a few rings but still have a few more uniques to tick off. RTO was making a rain while we went dry at Calvarion. Let's see what the weather's like here at Spindle. The fight against the spider is pretty simple. It's all about keeping in tune with its cycle as it goes through a set rotation of attacks while darting around the lair in between its 4 phases. It will start with 2 phases of 4 ranged attacks while summoning a set of spiderlings that will drain prayer while boosting Spindle's stats and allowing it to chip through prayer, so we'll want to take them out while taking on the boss. Next up, it will switch styles and attack with 2 phases of 4 magic attacks while throwing out its most deadly attack, the webs. It will shoot them at the player's location on its 3rd magic attack, and upon landing will cover up to a 5x5 area with webs that will rapidly drain the health, prayer and energy of anyone caught in it. Spindle will also attack with melee instead if we're close by, and while it is slightly more efficient to take it on with the chain mace, the web weaver does just fine. However, since we're also keen on a bit of anti-PKing, we've gone with a ranged and magic focus setup rather than a melee set for a better chance at controlling the fight. If we can lock the PKers down while combining attacks with Spindles, we'll have a good shot at turning things around, and if we can catch them in the webs, the damage can be absolutely nasty. We've even got a chance at dropping their prayer and pinching their +1, but we are at the same risk, so we'll need to play smart so things don't go the opposite way. KC number 1, 250 red spider's eggs into the looting bag. The Ancient Godsword is accurate enough on its own, and its spec will come in clutch for stacking up some extra damage while giving us an extra heal, but the main drawback is that we won't have as much food as the PKers, so if things don't go our way, we'll need to use our combo food wisely while making an exit and going for a freeze escape while we still can. While farming the spider, if we don't make any mistakes, we'll barely take any damage while getting restocked with supply drops fairly often, but since we have runes for Entangle, we can also cast Bones to Peaches on the bones from Spindle for an extra top up if we need it. Not much else to say, now let's sit back and wait for the PKers to fall into our trap. Off to a good start with a few Onyx-Bolt tip drops, 300k each, we wound up our first trip at 13kc with over 1 mil in loot. Pretty damn good. Then our second KC into our second trip, we had our first fight. Looks like we've got a noob in Mystics and an Air Staff. We switch straight into our magic gear and send a TB as Spindle swaps to magic. We catch our Entangle as we get hit with the webs, catching our opponent in them and they start to get chipped down, but as we run out they catch their Entangle, keeping us at a distance and our damage lets us down. They've got a quiver in their range set and they whip out a halberd to whack us back from the webs, and as we go in for our Ancient Godsword spec they make a dash for it to avoid the extra damage, so they're really not as much of a noob as some of their gear might suggest. They exit the lair so we take the fight outside and keep up a decent bit of damage, but they're not backing down and hit us with a TB. They dip back in but we're right behind them. We go for the Entangle right away and catch ours as they splash theirs. We follow up with a big Godsword whack, but the timing works out well for them as they catch their next Entangle and run out just as the webs come down. We play it safe and keep overbrewing our health as they hit us with a Debo Axe combo. They knock us down to half HP, but we combo each straight back up before getting ourselves out of these webs. We catch them again and take back control of the fight as we hit them with an Ancient Godsword spec and keep them on the back foot as we keep on chancing them over and over. Looks like they're out of combo food, and at last the damage is just too much as we take them out with a whack. Now let's check out these keys. A bit better than I expected, they had a cheeky light bearer as well. 4.3 mil with an extra 120k on top. Not the most cost effective setup, but they still gave us a fair fight. Back to the spider, we finish up the next trip with only 287k in loot, up to 26kc, then the trip after a PKer drops in just as we hit our divine pot. They're in a half decent setup with 4 keys already, so we brew up to full HP before going for our TB, but all of a sudden they're not keen and they hit the logout button. Could have been a nice anti, we might just have to throw our TB right away if we don't think they'll stick around. Another couple of trips, we're now up to 50 KC with 2.3 mil on the loot tracker. A couple more trips and we were on for our next fight. A level 1, 2, 3 in an interesting setup, they drop in as we drop Spindle, but we start laying into them before catching them back with a TB. They catch their entangle as we splash ours, but we decide to go for damage and get a big surge as they run in, followed up with a 29 gold sword whack on just 43 HP. Could have been a quick KO, but the job's not done yet. We go for an entangle as they go for the exit, then keep up the pressure as we start standing under them in between bolts. They've got some seeds to counter, but we've got all the momentum as we drop an ancient gold sword spec, but they make it out of the exit before the stack comes through. They catch us outside and take a moment to heal up, but they're not done yet. We've got a whole lot more action to cover, so we'll speed run through the boring bits. We went for another spec, but while we're only hitting ones, there's not a whole lot we can do. It was a bit of an annoying fight, they kept on standing out of sight while recovering, then hitting us with a DD while sapping our magic level down with their Zami Flame, so we were unable to cast our Fire Surge. We start to get low on restores, so it's time to make our escape, but we end up catching each other at the same time while we've only got one sip of Sandview left, so we'll have to play smart. They seed into us, so we flash the gold sword and they seed away. We brew up to full HP while letting them catch their next freeze, but hold off on the restore until we're ready to go for ours. Just before we're unfrozen, we sip one more dose of brew, then sip our last Sandview before going for our entangle, but with some terrible luck we keep on splashing over and over. They drop a Void Waker spec and put us down to low HP. We see them going for their freeze, so we risk our HP while going for ours, but they catch us first. In a bit of danger here, but we've still got some hard food to heal up with. We use the last of our food and sip another dose of brew, but any more and we won't be able to entangle. We splash another couple of freezes before finally catching, but it was at this point we realised we've already outlasted the TB, so we just telly out. A bit of bad RNG, but that's a good reminder to keep an eye on our TB timer and not push it too far if things aren't going our way. The next trip, the next PK to come by was a level 108 in Mystics. We smacked them back a few times before going for our TB. We splashed on our first and they telly out just before we catch on our second. Oh well, back to it. We finish up the trip with 713k in loot, a couple of uninterrupted trips and we've completed our first 100 KC. 4.2 mil in boss loot and 4.4 mil from our first anti-PK. Nothing special, but that's good money. Then just 2 kills later, we were at it once again. A level 125, they catch us at the start of Spindle's magic phase, so we go for a run to avoid the webs and our magic defense comes through as they splash their entangle. They go for a run through the web, so we quickly swap to magic and go for the entangle first, then pop a TB and put on our smite before dumping our ancient gold sword specs. The damage stacks up and just like that, it's all over. A quick 1.3 mil, don't mind if I do. Next trip, we had another PK come by, another level 125. They catch their TB and entangle and start off with a big 41 surge, but as we TB them back, they back out and head for the exit. We chase them out, but they got a gap on us and hit the logout button. Some PKs are not willing to risk it at all. We head back out, but it looks like our world has been pinched and we've been jumped by their scout. A bit of mistaken identity, I'm not here to take them out this time, but we're not taking that. We line up a quick stack and send them back to Lumbridge. 67k loot, about as much as expected. Back to it, we get a few uninterrupted trips in along with our first Snapdragon drop. 450k for our normal loot, not bad. Then at 161k C in, we get our first unique, a humble Dragon 2-hander. Not worth a whole lot, but it's all good cause Spindle started spitting out the bolt tips. Next up, we had another bit of action from a level 107. They're keen for the fight, but we quickly turn things around while they're splashing about. We hit them with a DD and dump a spec. We've played things well, but the damage just isn't coming through. They heal up and hit us with a freeze just as the webs come down and all of a sudden we're in a bit of danger. We throw in our tank gear while protecting from Spindle's attacks and use our combo eats to keep our HP up high. We take a few big hits as Spindle swaps back to range, but we make it out and try to get ourselves back into the fight. We get set to go for an entangle, but they make some high IQ plays as they stand under us until the webs are thrown out before running out by the exit. We make it out as well, but they catch us on the edge before seeding over and pushing us back in with the Dragon Spear spec. A pretty impressive move, but we did get a cheeky chance in while they were at it as we comboed them with Spindle. We get smited for a sec, but keep our HP up high as we use the last of our combo food and we make it out without too much trouble. A bit too low on supplies to stick around, so we click the exit, but looks like they want out of here as well as they go for the freeze escape, but not before hitting us with an easy as they hit the logout button. Alright mate. Back to it, we're now up to 200 KC with a little over 8.6 mil in boss loot and 5.9 mil from PKs. Next trip, as we rolled up, there was a PKer and a nice set waiting out the front, but they didn't end up biting. A little bit later into the trip, we had a PvMer drop in on us. They stick around, so we've got our guard up as they go for the vengeance avoid wake up, but they don't commit. Might just be trying to scare us out of the world, but we're not going anywhere. The next PK to drop in was a bit of a strange one. They come in and start hitting us with Ice Barrage. Bit of a bold tactic PKing here without TBs, but teleporting was never the plan anyway. We hit them with the TB ourselves and they hit the gas. Bad timing for the webs, but we don't want to let them get away, so we lock them down with an entangle before coming in with the ancient gold sword. We get a couple of big chances in, but they're lucky to live through it. They make a run for it just as the webs come down and they make it outside, but we're right behind them. We both splash on each other, but we catch the next freeze and now we've got them on the ropes. We get a big bolt and land another gold sword spec, but the next bolt was all that was needed. They had nothing but magic gear, not sure what they were thinking, but 3.7 mil in loot, we'll take it. We then get some peaceful trips in with some decent loot, but at last we had our next fight. A level 109 in full swamp bark, they catch their TB and entangle as Spindle throws down its web. Lucky it wasn't sent at us. We catch them back as they throw in their eclipse set, we get ourselves ready and now we're on for the battle. We take momentum, but after a couple of splashes they catch us first and start hitting us with a DD. Unfortunate to not get any entangles off here, might have been better off to throw in a cheeky gold sword whack, but we end up catching them as our freeze is up and Spindle hits us with the web. We miss on a crucial gold sword spec and they hit us with an entangle as we try to run out. Could have had them in a bit of trouble there, but all of a sudden we're the one in danger. We make a mistake with our combo food and our prayer drops as we get comboed down to low HP. They make it out, then go in for the Abbey Dagger spec, getting a massive chance on us as we get smited once again. I'll be shutting up about luck. We're finally freed and we make it outside, but we're not out of this yet. They follow us out and follow up with the 36 surge, putting us back in the danger zone, so we throw on our tank gear while spamming the last of our brews. Once we're able to, we go for the freeze escape and thankfully we catch, but their swamp bark is messing with our freeze timer and we're not going to be able to get the log out, but we're still able to force a gap by running out and along the fence. Good fight. A bit of a spicy one, down to just 73 HP with no food left, but we make it out. Could have gone either way, but that's a good reminder of just how dangerous the webs can be. Back at it, up to KC 250, but not without an interruption. A max level with a bit of risk, we hit each other with a TB, but then they decide to hit the road. We catch them with an entangle, but we're caught out of crossbow distance. They make it outside and try to make their escape, but we win the freeze battle and keep working away. We don't have too much of a chance. We try to line up a KO, but we get a bit distracted as another PKer logs in under them and they use their staff spec. They catch their next entangle, then hug the fence to make their escape, but it looks like we've got our next contender already. Slim odds of outlasting them, but we only have a minute and a half left on our telly block, so nothing to worry about. We'll lock them in with a TB and go for a KO. We want them out in the open so that we can go for a stack, but they run in towards the entrance. We get a few big bolts and take the upper hand while we're able to focus on our tank switches. We land another entangle and take the opportunity to come in with the ancient gold sword, but with the spec hitting a 4 and the follow-up surge hitting an 8, we're not killing anyone. We keep the fight going, but all of a sudden they dip out into multi. I'm definitely not chasing that. Anyway, back to finish off KC number 250. Halfway there and we're up to 11.2 mil in loot from Spindle with 9.8 mil in anti-PKs. Could have been better, also could have been worse, but I'm happy with how things are going so far. Let's see how the second half goes. We get a few trips in, then the next in line was a level 124 and a full-on rag set. We hit a quick TB and get down to business. A little too much typing, we almost take them out right away. They said that they're ass, then go ahead and drop a DDS spec on the Spindling. At least they're aware, but honestly, I'm just happy it wasn't me this time. We catch another entangle as the webs come down, a few bolts followed up with the 2 from the ancient gold sword, but the webs were enough to put him out of his misery. What do we get? Yep, 200k. Back to finish off the boss, we get ourselves another snapdragon drop and a couple of kills later, just as we take down Spindle, another PKer drops in. A level 110 and a budget setup, we wait for them to send their TB, then send one right back at them, but they're keen for the fight. Not a whole lot of danger coming from them while they're just camping their crossbow during Spindle's range phase. Eventually we get a decent surge and go in for the KO while they're sitting on low HP, but they just get a gap on us as they go for the exit. We catch them just in time and dump an Ancient Goldsword spec as Spindle switches into its magic phase, and now we've got them right where we want them. We step out as the webs come down, their prayer gets dropped, and the Ancient Goldsword comes through as we come back in with a 47 for the KO. It was smited, but it was only for a dragon crossbow. A few trips later, the PK that was on Ancients earlier is back. At least they're on standards this time. We catch each other and get into it. We misclick our staff and they start off with a big 41 surge as we splash our entangle. Spindle switches into magic and throws its web at us, but we're free just in time. We catch our freeze and come in close as we start to take control of the fight. We drop an Ancient Goldsword spec and the follow-up whack is enough to finish them off. A quick 1 mil, can't complain. They've re-geared and beat me back out there, but I don't think they want to mess with us no more. Our very next kill, we get our second Dragon 2-hander at 282 KC. A bit later, we had a level 92 drop in, too low level to hit us, but not long after, we had another fight against a level 123. They've got a decent setup, so we'll need to be careful. Spindle is just spawned, so we decide not to go for the TB just yet. We burn a bit of time, and as they splash their entangles, we decide to head outside to heal up and get an advantage before we head back in. We bolt them down before trying to catch our TB, but we're super unlucky and end up splashing 3 times in a row as we start to get slapped up. They got a chance in as we got smacked off prayer, but we're still kicking. The webs come down, but we make it out just after. This isn't going our way, so we get closer to the exit before going for another TB, but another 2 splashes as we keep on taking some heat. We don't have the supplies to survive another round of webs, so we take things outside. We splash a couple more TBs and finally catch on the 8th cast. We eventually get a small burst of damage and shoot our shot, but it's not quite enough. The RNG isn't there this fight and we're starting to get low, so while they go for a run around the railing, we run the other way and get a gap. Peace. We make it out and our Dragon 2-hander makes it into the bank. A couple trips later, we were interrupted once again, a level 121 in a Mystics rag set. We go in for a quick TB but splash our first and they telly out before we catch our second. Back to it, but they couldn't resist. A minute later, they rock up ready to throw down. We catch our TB and entangle as they splash about. Bad timing for the webs, but we've got them deep in the lair. A couple of missed prayers and we get smacked down, so we play it safe and eat up. Spindle switches back to magic as we catch another entangle. They catch us back as the webs come down and now it's on. We go all out and get a big bolt followed up with a big Ancient Goldsword spec. We hit a combo eat while they struggle to stay alive before ending it with a whack. That was a little bit closer than I would have liked, but that's another win and another 770k. We head back out and had a few spiders to clean up. No wonder Spindle was smacking. We're now up to 300kc with 13.5 mil in loot and 13.9 mil in PKs. We're getting hit every few trips, but not to the point that we can't get any kills in, but all of a sudden it did get a bit busy. 301kc, we get ourselves some more bolt tips, and during the next KC we were hit once again. A level 126 in a rag set, they come in and catch the TB. We try to go for the run out and back in to burn some time, but we get caught by the exit, so we decide to go for it here. We pop our TB and catch our entangle as they come in close and Spindle switches into magic. We hit a big Goldsword spec as the webs come down, but a few misses on the follow-ups. We chase them out and click our summer pie to get some energy back before getting back on the hunt. We catch another few freezes and keep working away, but with only a couple of hundred damage done, we don't have a whole lot of chance at securing an outlast. They end up dropping a Void Waker spec that doesn't really faze us, but they catch their entangle right after as we miss ours and they take their chance to escape. Back at it, we get 1 kill in before we were interrupted once again. Another max combat and a bloodbug set. They splash a few times as we bolt them back and hit our TB and they're straight onto the gas. We catch them outside and have a quick little scrap, but we burgered this one as we had a bit of a misclick on our switches and they got the freeze escape. Next trip we got another Snapdragon drop and just a few kills later it was on again. A level 124 in a mismatched mage setup, a bit interesting, but anyways let's get into the fight. We catch each other in close as Spindle swaps to magic and hits us with the webs. We both get worn down but make it out before keeping the scrap going. We catch the next entangle and take the upper hand as we hit them with an Ancient Goldsword spec, but we don't get the RNG to take them down. They hit us with an entangle as Spindle swaps back to magic and we get caught in the webs, but they're still in a bit of a struggle as we keep comboing them down. We get a couple of massive chances in while Spindle hits them off prayer. They're fumbling around while trying to drop their spec, then somehow take their top off. They may have tried to panic telly, but they ain't going anywhere. We're super unlucky to not take them down here as we spec only a 16 on 26 HP and they avoid the extra 25 by dipping out and back in. They've got a lead on us, so rather than run in right away, we hold off for a moment while getting ourselves set. While Spindle's still alive, they've got no way out. We dip back in and catch them at the exit and we're quick enough to keep up. We keep working away and get a small chance in with the gourd sword whack, but after we miss 2 entangles while they catch theirs and make their getaway. Close one, would have been a half decent key, but we can't win them all. A bit of a hot patch, but things cooled off for a bit. We finish up the next trip at 321 KC, some Onyx Bolts to finish the trip after, and some Snappy Ds on the next. Eventually, we had a level 98 drop in. They're able to hit us, but they're not keen, though they are sticking around, so we're a little bit suspicious. Moments later, we have a level 109 with a bunch of keys dropping on us. They hesitate before attacking us, but end up firing some surges. A bit strange not going for the TB, but we go for ours and they decide to dip out. Of course we chase them out, and while they could have easily escaped, they keep fighting back. They keep on trying to drag us outside the fence instead of keeping up their attacks. A bit of a dead giveaway that they're trying to spear me into multi. We call them out on the multi-bait and settle this one with a dance-off. Back to it, we get a couple of big trips in without any interruptions. We had a visit from a level 121, but they didn't want the smoke. We're now up to 400 KC with 18.1 mil in loot from Spindle. No PKs in that patch, 100 KC to go, now let's wrap things up. The next trip we were hit by a level 112. Not giving them time to think about it, we go for the TB right away and lock them down before they make a run for it. We start off nice and aggressive and we quickly take control. We get a decent spec in and follow up with the big bolt, but they eat through it. We chase them out and try to work them down with some outlast tactics by getting out of sight while they have their freeze immunity. We go through a couple rounds of entangles, but the damage lets us down. They end up catching us and they make it out, but not before hitting a few poses. The next trip at 426 KC in, Spindle dropped us our third dragon two-hander. Pretty unlucky for all of our uniques so far to be two-handers, but it is what it is. Then the very next kill as we took down the boss, we were attacked by a level 126. A bit of time to kill before the web, so we don't go for the TB yet. We don't want to scare them off early, so we mess around while bolting them back, but as we go for the exit, they catch their entangle. They whip out their Void Waker and start smacking us up while Spindle gets some hits in off prayer. We try to go for a quick TB and entangle while Spindle is about to switch phases, but end up splashing while getting slapped around. We make a good call on our prayers and protect against their spec, but we're under a bit of pressure, so we bail out while getting ourselves reset. We pop our TB and dip back into the lair. They get a hit off as we drop in, so we quickly hit a combo E before battling for the entangle. Both of us splash, but we land our next, catching them in the webs while they keep on splashing. We pop a bolt before coming in and dumping our ancient gold sword specs, a 34 on our first spec. We put on our smite and hit a 36 on the second, and the extra damage comes through to finish them off. No big Void Waker smite, but a nice 7 mil loot, not bad. And finally, at 434 KC in, we get our first elite clue. Bit of a dry streak for a 1 in 100, now let's get it done. On the third step, we were back into the wildy and had a rag bolter come at us out of nowhere. We're still geared up, so of course we started throwing down. We got a couple of big chances in, but just couldn't finish them off before they ran out into multi. They might have been out, but it's just not worth chasing. Oh well, time to finish off this clue. We get our casket, and we get absolute dog shit. Back to the spider, 441 KC, and for our fourth unique, we get the Fangs of Venenatus. 1048 total KC for those, not worth much at all, but at least we've ticked them off the log. Up to 450 KC, on the home stretch now, but the action wasn't over yet. A level 110 drops in with their hides on. They take a sec, but eventually go for the TB. Looks like we've got a cute noob here, but we're not letting them get away with it. We switch into our magic gear and send a TB as Spindle switches into magic. We come in close and catch them with an entangle as Spindle throws down its webs. A little bit of a fumble. I thought I could step out here, but we're up against the edge of the lair. We sort ourselves out before dumping our ancient gold sword specs and miss on the first but land the second before getting a whole bunch of chances in. Their prey goes down, but the gold sword noodles twice on just 24 HP. They get their prayer back up, but they're not going anywhere. We hit them with another entangle as Spindle cycles back into magic and hits them with the webs once again. Not a good time for them, a couple more bolts and it's all over. 867k in loot, whatever their +1 was, we'll never know. Next up was the level 115 Voidar with the Toxic Staff. They come in just as Spindle switches into magic, so we go for the entangle first to try and catch them in the webs, but they tally out before we can follow up with the TB. Back to it, and for our fifth and last unique at 464 KC, we get Yep, our 4th dragon two-hander. One for each set of legs, but unfortunately, I am not a spider. And for our last fight, we were hit by a max level and a void set. Spindle is just spawned, so we burn a little bit of time while brewing up and bolting them down. They catch their entangle and start standing under us. They poke us with a fang, then spec us with a void waker, but we hit our combo eats and now it's our turn. We hit them with a TB as they dump their second spec and Spindle switches into magic. We catch the entangle, catching them in the webs, then hit them with the ancient gourd sword. Super unlucky to only hit a 6 and miss on the second spec. We follow up with a bolt into a 29 whack off prayer, getting them down to 29 HP. They get chanced by Spindle, but the damage didn't come through when we needed it. They gap it outside, so we follow them out and keep up the fight. We take the upper hand as we get a few gourd sword whacks in off prayer, but our magic lets us down as we splash 2 entangles as they land theirs. They start hitting us with the DD again and get some damage off, but we keep things level with a big whack off prayer as they step out. We both brew up before getting back into a freeze battle, and this time we take the advantage. Some decent moves, we get a bit of damage off, but it's not enough to put them in danger. We try to keep up the DPS, didn't expect it to be over yet, but they've decided they've had enough and make their escape. Unfortunately no big kill to finish off, but we held our own against a decent PKer and I'm happy with that. Time to wrap things up, we get 2 big trips in and finally we are up to KC number 500. It's been a good time anti-PKing here at Spindle. The boss is easy but still engaging enough to keep us entertained, and whenever any PK showed up it felt like we could put up a fair fight. Being on the standard spellbook allowed us to lock them in, and while some still managed to escape, our success rate here was way higher. We had plenty of action here as well, majority being mains and mid levels. We didn't see many pures or zerkers, but that does make sense for a deep worldy prayer draining boss. The fights were simple but still intense. It was all about keeping in tune while taking control and catching each other in the webs. The drain stacks up about as quick as you can brew, so if you get caught without combo food, you don't stand much of a chance. But unless they were going for their specs or we were able to pray a flick, we were often better off protecting from Spindle's attacks to avoid getting stacked by both the boss and the PKer. But when we were able to turn things around, it was all down to RNG. Our ranged and mage based setup worked well within the lair. We often had the advantage when fighting from a distance, and a solid ancient gold sword spec on top of the webs would tear them to shreds. Of course, there were still a few times that RNG had its way, though we did survive a couple of chances, so I can't complain. If they make it outside, it's not hard to make an escape, so an Outlast setup wasn't entirely effective. You could lean into more of a KO setup for a better chance at finishing kills, you might just have a tougher time setting them up. But either way, if we play it well, we've always got a chance. KC number 500 for some diamond bolts, and we are out. Time for the loot check. After 500 Spindle KC, we walk away with 22.2 million loot. Plenty of bolt tips, but no luck on the Void Waker gem. We pulled 5 uniques, but 4 of them were dragon two-handers. We ticked off 1 log slot with the fangs, but it looks like the spider and I have some unfinished business. We'll be heading back in the future, but from the 10 PKs we took down this time, we managed to loot a total of 21.4 mil, raking in 43.6 mil overall. In supplies, we burned through about 250k in food, 7 mil in pots, 750k in bolts, 300k in runes, and 4.2 mil in ether, costing us 12.5 mil all up, so our overall profit comes out to a solid 31.1 mil. We could have lost a good chunk when we were chanced for our bow, but we also missed out on a couple of big kills. In the end, we walk away with 0 deaths and a nice average in both boss loot and loot keys. Mission successful. And with that, we wrap up the series. Looking back, it was a load of fun. We learnt a lot about anti-PKing, and each boss was quite a unique experience. I'd say that RTO was the easiest to kill but the hardest to PK at. It's most suitable for players who can cope well within the chaos and like to line their opponents up with a big KO. It takes a lot of skill to line up a kill with its special attack, and the rest of the fight is by far the scrappiest. It went a bit rough for us on the PvP side of things. Our one and only death was here, but 1 death over 1500 KC, I can live with that. Ancients wasn't the best for anti-PKing, still we come up with 4 kills for 8.3 mil in loot. But with 9 uniques including 2 Void Waker hilts, the 61.5 mil in boss loot certainly made up for it. Calvarion, however, was the complete opposite. It was the most click intensive but least damaging boss. It also gave us the least amount of boss loot. 20.3 mil with only 2 uniques, but one of those was a pet, so I'm not mad about it. In terms of anti-PKing, I'd say it's more suitable for less experienced players. It's much less intense, though if using Vengeance it can be harder to make escapes. But being in a full-on KO setup, if you make the right moves, you can always come up with the counter attack. Only 4 kills again, but for 94 mil. Our 2 massive kills made Calvarion our highest profiting boss. And lastly, Spindle was a happy medium, a chill boss that keeps us engaged, and rather than being chased around, all we need to do is keep in tune with its attack cycle, allowing us to focus on fighting back against the PKers. My personal favourite, it's most suitable for those that like to face off in a good old 1v1 with a little extra sting. As we just covered, we made a total of 22.2 mil in boss loot and 21.4 mil from our 10 successful anti-PKs. No luck on the Voidwaker gem or any outrageous kills, but a solid average. Overall, we made 104 mil in boss loot and 123.7 mil from anti-PKs. I had a suspicion and I've proved it correct. It's better money to anti-PK these bosses than it is from the bosses themselves. Thanks for watching, I'll catch you next time. Peace.